Usual for these Whiteboard Wednesdays, and I'm going to combine what I would have done this past week relative to Learn, Think, Act in the Simplify playlist into Whiteboard Wednesday, primarily because I was traveling. I'm going to pay attention to some of the chat and see if I can answer some questions if those things pop up. If they don't, we're just going to dive right into it, because I've had this same conversation with a couple of people recently, specifically related to what's happening in their go-to-market motion, or their sales motion, their success motion, their revenue motion, whatever you want to call it. And everybody's got a slightly different term that they want to use. We've got architects, we've got engineers, we've got operators, we've got all that kind of stuff, and you've seen that before in some of the videos. Let's just kind of work through it. From a Catalyst perspective, to really simplify your building of the revenue engine, I like to use this model. And the first piece is acquisition. So how do we make money? That's initial sale. So we acquire a customer for the first time, one time. Now, I get it. In the future, you could reacquire that customer. And if it is left over a period of time, you might look at that as a new customer acquisition activity. But you acquire a customer for the first time, one time. And then when that customer is onboarded and goes through the process, ideally, you figure out ways to expand and grow that customer. So that's going to be retention and expansion. So we want to retain our customers through expansion. An expanding customer, growing customer typically stays with you. Now, we've got acquisition, the initial money, retention, and expansion. The next piece, and depending on where you are inside your organization journey, stage of company, challenge you're running into at any given point in time, one of these three areas could be the area you want to focus on. Demand. So these are the channels we use to create pipeline. So the first conversion in here is pipeline created. Pipeline created. The next conversion in the middle here is pipeline developed. We've talked about those numbers. That moves to a sale. So pipeline developed, pipeline created, pipeline developed. And then in this side, we start to create renewal pipeline. We create expansion pipeline. But anyway, so we've got dare to grow. Demand, acquisition, retention through expansion. Some really simple things, right? So conversion, pipeline created, and really I should have carried this all the way over here to pipeline developed. That pipeline developed conversion, that's your sales process for forecasting. Sales process for forecasting. The pipeline created, that's the beginning stage. So from a Catalyst perspective, it's validated, qualified, fit established, fit confirmed on the client side, proposal approved, closed won, and then confirmation. And then at the confirmation piece, then you start to validate a new opportunity or potentially get referrals, which start to create some demand. So we've got pipeline created, new opportunity, pipeline developed, moving through those sales stages. Typically, those things are going to move a little bit like chutes and ladders. They're going to go back and forth. There's going to be a little bit of a dance here. Those things are going to help you with probability of sale. Now, the next piece to look at here, and this is a challenge I think a lot of people really are running into right now, is first they're saying, hey, we've got a sales problem. Okay, is the sales problem a growth problem? Is the sales problem a new customer acquisition problem? Is the sales problem something else? So we've got a sales problem. Well, let's break it down into smaller pieces. Is it a retention and expansion challenge, growth within existing customers? Is it a new customer acquisition challenge, bringing on new customers into the system? Or is it a kind of like an at-bat or demand challenge? Well, let's break these down into smaller pieces and say on the retention and expansion, we might break into strategic accounts, general accounts, and low accounts, whatever your categories are. Those could be like A, B, C, D, bronze, silver, gold, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, whatever segmentation you'd like to use on that side, primarily because we're creating focus through lines of clarity. Clarity, we're going to focus on retention and expansion, and then clarity around we're going to focus on either strategic accounts, general accounts, or some of these higher volume, maybe high churn type accounts. The reason why you want to segment these into individual pieces is if your conversion metrics are not good in tier 3, tier 2, or tier 1 accounts, then you can figure out how do I solve for the challenge that I've got in that specific area. Same thing happens on the demand side. So on the demand side, it might look something like this. Demand side, we're going to look at which channels are working effectively. We might have one-to-many, the marketing channels, that demand channel, one-to-many. This is the area of the business that I've never really solved for. We've got some things that we're working on to help solve for this, but this is this one-to-many demand gen. Typically what I would look at is your growth marketer type role out there. And there's a number of different titles that we have that are out there for that type of person. They're the person who is really good at copy. They're really good at setting up the systems and processes to gather data on people as they go from unknown people to hit our website, and now they know us, but they now need to convert to, do we actually know them? And then how do we nurture them to get them to a point where it makes sense to create pipeline? So how do we get them to that point where we actually have a conversation with them? That's one-to-many. The other area that I'm pretty good at is the one-to-one outreach, meaning this is that target account type stuff. So I identify that I want to work with and I've had some back and forth with my friends over at QuickBooks Online and Intuit just recently because of some frustrations I'm running into in the business, but that's for another story. I reach out directly to a specific contact over there, one-to-one outreach. And there I want to know, who are the people who, you've seen this before, who have the problem, are impacted by the problem continuing to persist, or care about the people who have or impact the problem. These are the people that we want to reach out to. A lot of people will throw multi-threading into this whole thing, but they don't know what that really means. One-to-one direct outreach from a sales rep or an SDR or whoever the specific role is. And then the third one that I really like, are partnerships. And the reason I like partnerships is because people who have, if you can work with someone who has a relationship with the type of people you want to be able to support and serve, and do that in a complementary manner, you can actually help serve more people faster because they're typically sharing the challenges they run into with the people they already trust. And if you happen to be a known entity with people that they already trust, and it's very clear what problem you solve for, they can make those connections. So partnerships are really important. What do you see when you look at the board? If I step away, you've got 3 segments: demand, acquisition, retention, expansion. And then you've got 3 more segments: strategic, general accounts, low accounts, in focus, next focus, out of focus type accounts, might be the way that you organize it. And then on this side, you've got 3 channels: one-to-many, one-to-one partnerships. Here's the cool part about that. Your variables are going to change. You just think about this like Mad Libs. And actually, you have a comment in here if you'd like to see the Mad Libs approach to building this out, and you help kind of deconstruct and simplify your approach that you take to go to market. But we've got option RE1, RE2, RE3, acquisition, let's call it 1 and 2, different markets we might be focused on, and then demand, 1, 2, 3, or A, B, C. And you can start filling those things out. Cool part is when you align with your team on this approach and everybody understands, hey, where do I fit in here? Now, one of the things you'll notice is I don't have roles listed up here because I could give a crap about what role does what inside the business, because your vocabulary, your language is going to be unique to you. What I do care about is, does everybody understand the job to be done of each of these stages or areas or boxes, the conversions we're looking for, and who's functionally going to own it. So depending on what your perspective is, you might come across this and say, hey, marketing owns demand. I would say that if that's your perspective and you're limiting marketing to the demand function, you're missing a very big opportunity inside your business. Marketing actually can communicate across the entire customer life cycle. They can work all the way through. Imagine Well, I can tell you, me being good with words on a piece of paper when I'm not in the room that's not my strength. You can take a look at my website and you can see that. It's not our strength. It's not putting together a copy is not my strength, not our strength. We're working on it. Marketing can actually help you across all three of these categories. So they cross not only the initial demand, but the actual acquisition and the retention and expansion if the work, the content that they're putting together aligns with the customer journey. Sales, on the other hand, might, inside your organization, only focus on initial acquisition and then hand it off to someone on the success side to help retain and grow the business. Account managers retain and grow the business. In other businesses that I've operated in and have designed, I've had sales continue the relationship all the way through. So you talk about full funnel or full cycle rep. They do, look, that's me way back in the day, demand, acquisition, retention, expansion, heck, even inside the business, generate demand through referrals, partnerships that I have. I go in and work through the sales process, and then I do the installation and application. It's one of the reasons why sometimes we fall short on the generating demand side of things, and that's why sometimes the business looks a little bit lumpy. Over time, when you grow as a company, you can start to specialize in any of these areas. Here's the big problem that a lot of people make. Number one, they overcomplicate all of this. And that is going to look complicated to the person who comes in here and sees this for the first time. They're like, I just see this, what is this? They overcomplicate it. The way that we reduce complexity or help simplify is we start cutting things off. So we put things in focus. So let's just say that I'm only going to focus on that retention and expansion from a strategic account perspective. I can align an entire team around it. So let's not overcomplicate it. Let's deconstruct, create focus through lines of clarity, and then identify what our conversion metrics are in each of these areas to determine, are we winning or are we losing? You can simplify your approach. It doesn't need to be this complicated. If you think your business is complicated and that it can't be simplified and broken down into smaller pieces, give me a call. I'm happy to help. I'll show you how we can do it because I've seen this happen over and over and over again. And then what happens is there's this aha moment when now you get this alignment between marketing and sales and success. And then add in the other layers, functional layers of the business, like operations and product and engineering. You add in those other functional layers and you start to realize, hey, this is what the baton handoff looks like between each of those functional areas. Ultimately, we're in a better position to take care of our customers. If this sounds interesting, give me a call. Happy to work through it. If you want to go deeper into it, just take a look at the go-to-market specific stuff in the playlist that I've got out on YouTube. Best way to get a hold of me, though, is direct message either here on LinkedIn, on Twitter, or in the comments on YouTube. You can find your catalyst at findmycatalyst.com. Thanks.